Recently, oops, that was in your face. Recently, Matt has lost
okay.
20 pounds without exercising. So we thought it would be an interesting Facebook Live for a lot of you to find out how he did that. So I'm going to be going through a little bit of an interview with him because I think this is going to be beneficial for so many of you to kind of see the inside of what it looks like to see a functional medicine doctor and learning about how individually everyone is so different. And how when you find out what your specific needs are, you can lose weight a little bit, I don't want to say effortlessly because you've had to put some work in, but
Sure.
without exercise, just by tweaking some things. So let's start by basically saying, or me asking you, why did you originally go to see Dr. Arsenault, like our functional medicine doctor? Like what symptoms led you there?
Sure. So, I mean, I had excess weight that I was always having a hard time getting rid of. So no matter how hard I worked out or no matter how much I tried to eat well, I wasn't able to lose the weight. So I just kind of just carried this weight around. And I figured, well, maybe I'm just stuck being this weight. You know, maybe I'll always be 230, 240, which, you know, I'm 6'2". That's not necessarily overweight, but it is kind of. You know, it is. I am technically overweight at that.
You felt over. I mean,
yeah,
you're a big guy, and I think you're 6'3", aren't you?
Well, yeah, 6'2.5" maybe.
Okay.
6'3" on a good day.
You're a big guy, but
Yeah.
you felt it was something that you were self-conscious about, and
Yes.
I think, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what was frustrating for you was that we've been eating healthy for several years, and
Right.
for me, that resulted in weight loss and sustained weight loss. But for you, like, you definitely saw a difference in your energy and your digestion, but you didn't fully see the results. And I know
so
you were frustrated.
Yeah, so we eliminated some things from our diet, and I naturally, just by eliminating certain things like gluten for the most part and dairy, I started to see changes. Like my allergies were not as bad. Things were happening before I even went to see the doctor.
Yes.
Right? However, it just hit a plateau. Like it was I got a certain amount of benefit, and then that was it.
Even when you did exercise.
Correct, even when I did exercise. And when I
Yes.
did exercise, I would gain muscle for sure, but I just could not lose this extra weight that was kind of hanging off me.
Yeah, specifically in your stomach.
Specifically in my stomach and my hips and butt. Like that area, that midsection of my body for the most part. So
Yep.
yeah, hips and stomach for the most part, which would mean that my waist was, you know, in between a 36 and a 38
Okay.
on average. And that's, you know, for me, that's a little bit big for my frame. So at any rate, you know, I noticed that my breathing wasn't great, you know, and I would snore a lot at night. I would get congested a lot. And suffer from like sinus infections and things like that because my sinuses would have trouble draining because I was having allergic reactions. You know, I had a variety of different issues.
Heartburn, indigestion.
Heartburn and indigestion. So that was another big one for me as well. So I would often have like gluten-free pizza. So we would have gluten-free pizza with tomato sauce on it and maybe like pineapple. I love Hawaiian pizza. I love pineapple and bacon and ham and that. And so I would have that, and naturally, late at night, I would wake up and I would have horrific heartburn, and I would attribute it to that. I would attribute it to...
We thought it was tomatoes.
We thought it was the tomatoes, then we thought it was pineapple, then we thought it was garlic. You know, we weren't sure. We were trying to hone in on what the issue was. And so there were a variety of different things happening. I'm trying to nail all of them, but, you know, energy levels were not always optimal.
Yeah.
You know, I would find sometimes that I would get stressed really easily. Like I would find myself quickly like reacting to something and then realizing afterwards, wow, like I reacted very quickly to that. I would get very upset when driving in the car and I would lash out, and you know, and that's natural for most people, but like the reality is that there was something, ultimately we'll find out like there was
You'll
something
find out
underlying
what's going
that.
Yeah.
Don't want to spoil it, but so there was so many different things that were happening, and you know, I just couldn't believe it. And now, obviously, weight loss was one of the big ones, but there were other things about my lifestyle that I was not happy about, and I thought there was something wrong. So, I'd been to a doctor. They prescribed things like Nasonex, or they would tell me, we'll just take Reactin for your allergies, or, you know, those kinds of things. But never once did they ever talk about my diet. Never once did we talk about any underlying issues or tests that I should take. They just prescribed medicine.
Yep.
And so, we did some research. I know you had success with Dr. Arsenault in the past, and it came to a point where I was just like, it was last year that and Rowan was, about 1 year old, just after that I realized, I need to start thinking about my health and my longevity. And, I'm starting to feel like I'm slow and sluggish and not myself, and I'm only 37, and I just didn't feel like I was myself. I didn't feel like I looked 37, but I wasn't feeling 37, And so I decided that I needed to do something about it. So we did a few things, but first and foremost was going to Dr. Arsenault to, talk to him and understand, tell him what my issues were and what I felt was ailing me, and then we talked about it. So that's what got me to go there. That's what was going on at the time.
Okay, so then my next question is just quickly run through what your initial consultation looked like. Because I know people are going to be like, what if they decide to go see a functional medicine doctor or a naturopathic doctor? There is a difference, but you're welcome to go see two, whatever, or both, whatever, or either one, whatever feels right to you. But just quickly run them through. Like you first got set up with a 15-minute consultation that's free.
Yep. So my first 15-minute consultation, we talked about just the top line issues that I just described. So my weight, my breathing, my heartburn, my anxiety levels, my stress levels, and that. And as part of that consultation, he asked me a number of different questions. Asked me what my priorities were in terms of my health. So what was I looking to achieve through coming to see him? So we picked out 4 or 5 things that were of importance to me, and then he said, all right, let's talk about your top 3. Let's focus in on 3 that you want to accomplish. We can address all of them, but let's talk about the 3. And then we talked about those. He gave me he basically, from those 3, he then identified the tests that I would need to take. So we would do a variety of different tests. And then he also identified some of the tests were take home, and some of the tests were ones that I would go into the office, and I can explain what those were all about. But yeah, so in all of that 15 minutes, it ended up being about 30 minutes, to be honest, because we talked a lot. But he basically understood what my history was in my situation. He wanted to talk about what my health priorities were, and then he came up with the tests that we should do in order to get the information he would need to make an assessment. Yeah.
So you started, the one part you missed is that you actually have to fill out quite a few forms before you go. Going over your history, and then you present them with that history. He goes through it with you while you're there. Okay. And then that also gives him an idea of it does that compounded with your current concerns. It does. It gives him an idea. Okay, now before we move forward, before I prescribe anything, before I suggest anything, these are the tests we're going to do. This is where I'm getting an inkling that there could be a problem, and then that is when you guys, he gives you a requisition, some things to do at home, and then you guys meet up, 2 months after that or something like that.
Yes.
Okay. So just to clarify.
She's very distracting right now.
I know. She does this a lot during my Facebook Lives, and it drives me nuts.
She found a
fly. Pantera, chill out.
She found a fly.
Okay, and then so let's fast forward then. I can't remember if it was 6 weeks or 8 weeks, but then.
So hold on. Can I give more information?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Okay, cool. So we had the initial consultation, and then walking away from the consultation, he gave me a variety of tests to do. Right? Yeah. Yeah. And he also gave me a take-home quiz. So there's the paperwork that you initially fill out, but there's also that online questionnaire that you go through.
Oh, I didn't do that.
Well, you should. They're supposed to email you a link to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, you fill out an online questionnaire as well, and that's also more information and insight into your history and your health to help give them more information to make diagnoses and recommendations. Yeah. So, I got a whole bunch of different take-home tests. Should we talk about those?
We'll go back to those if people have questions. Right. Because I know people are going to want to cut to the chase here. So. All right. But yeah, before we move on to the next question, I just want to point out that think about all of the time that was spent with Matt filling out questions beforehand and then online after with Dr. Arsenault. Like, you're getting a very comprehensive take home with what Matt's history is and what could potentially be going on. Very different. Not to take away from a medical doctor. I have my own medical doctor. I'm pro. I have a great relationship with him. I think he's amazing, but it's a very different approach. So I just want you to consider this, that if you're not getting some of the answers you want from a medical doctor, that, you know, it's very thorough. So
well, if you figure you go into a walk-in clinic and within 15 or 20 minutes of being at a walk-in clinic, you walk out with a prescription for an antibiotic and a nasal spray, and the doctor has never met you before, that's pretty remarkable. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it has
either they're incredible at what they do, and I'm not knocking the medical profession, but I got to be honest, they don't know exactly what's going on with me, right? Like, you can take my temperature, you can stick the the thing in my ear and look in my ear, and you can look at my throat and say, yeah, it looks like you have a throat infection, but maybe you don't, you know, and maybe it's something else.
Maybe you have inflammation in your body,
maybe
or
it's something
whatever.
else. But that's what I find is the major difference between the theory or the practice of functional medicine and general practice of medicine, which is prescribe versus understand the root cause and, you know, and do tests, functional integrative tests to understand what the causes are and then come up with a solution, which is, to your point, he spent 2 hours at least, you know, understanding me and my history and where I was at and what I wanted to accomplish before he still hadn't even prescribed anything.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and there was lots of communication between you and the office and the nurse and stuff, like in between that initial visit as well as the follow-up, which is my next question.
Yes.
And if people want to know later, let us know if you want to know like the exact kind of tests that Dr. Arsenault had prescribed for Matt. But we'll just fast forward for now, and then so you guys can get an idea of like what the next step was, and like ultimately how he ended up losing 20 pounds. Plus,
why do you think I'm boring if I go through all my tests?
Some people might think
I can go on about this
people
stuff forever.
will
I mean, I could literally talk about this. I'll talk people's face off about stuff.
Well,
so
you and I could, but
Yeah.
I just appreciate that not everyone is going to want to hear every
No,
single test.
I won't.
Okay, so you go back in like 6 or 8 weeks. I can't remember the exact time. And then after that,
it was about 8 weeks. Yeah, so I started the initial consult in like November-ish, and then in through December, and then January I went for my next full visit.
Yeah.
And at that point, he had all my test results from all the tests that I had done, and that's when we had a conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what were the biggest things that you learned at that appointment? Like, what was the next plan of attack for you to correct those 3 main things that were your concerns?
Right. So what was fascinating was I did the food allergy test.
Yes, that was one of the tests he wanted you to do.
The food allergy test was remarkable. We, thought that we knew a lot about, what I was allergic to just by elimination and experimenting with our diet. And, at one point I had been pretty good at being a vegan for about 3 or 4 months. And I felt good, but it was probably more like an ethical feeling of good versus actually feeling good. I didn't lose really any weight, and I didn't feel better.
And you were always hungry.
And I was always hungry. And so we went through the test, and the results came back, and quickly to go through the tests, but I was allergic to egg whites. I was reactive to egg whites, soybeans, gluten, potatoes, peas.
White potatoes.
Yeah, peas. What was another big one that I was reactive to? Those were big ones.
Yes.
And so what was fascinating is that my entire life I've eaten eggs, like religiously, like egg sandwiches, omelets, fried eggs, scrambled eggs, you name it, poached eggs. Like, I love eggs. And I love, I really enjoyed eating all the tofu and the soy-based foods, to get my protein when I was being a vegan.
We were eating soy a lot.
A lot, right? And then obviously, we didn't eat that much gluten, but I kind of knew I was reactive to gluten anyways.
The most gluten you had was beer.
But beer was what I was having. And, I was just surprised by a lot of oranges, mushrooms,
Only talk about the stuff on the red list.
Oh, well, those were on the red list.
I know, but just don't keep going.
No, I won't. But anyways, sorry. You're trying to rush me here.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Like,
so,
15 minutes later, as well as...
I'll get the list out and start reading to everybody. So anyway, those were the top 10. Anyways, I was fascinated by it, blown away. It surprised us completely. She caught the fly, now she's eating it. That's good. So anyway, I couldn't believe it. Like, I was just completely blown away. And so from that was the initial meeting. And then, because I had another one after that, remember? So I did more tests, and then that's when we did. So I'm going to talk about the first return back. So there were other tests that I did, one of which was a stomach acid test to see whether or not I had low stomach acid. So contrary to what people think about stomach acid, is that in many cases, a lot of us have low stomach acid. And when you get acid reflux and heartburn at night or at any time of the day, it could be that you actually have low stomach acid and not the other way around. So the marketing in the world trains you to take a Tums or a Pepto-Bismol to reduce the stomach acid, and it's a temporary relief, but that actually creates an even worse deficit of acid in your stomach.
It gives you temporary relief, but in long term.
Yeah, it causes poor digestion. So as it turns out, my stomach acid levels were actually quite low. So I started taking a stomach acid supplement with each meal. And obviously with the food test, we just started to eliminate those things in the red. There were 3 categories: red, yellow, and green on the food reactivity test. Green is good, yellow is borderline, so you don't have to worry too much about, but red are the ones that they really want you to focus on eliminating. So I set forth on a 60-day or so elimination of those things, and the stomach acid tablets, and a couple of other supplements that I was taking, which are like vitamin C and things like that. So that started.
And I just want to point out that the idea behind that is that you want the 60 days, because what Dr. Arsenault had concluded is that, like, you had a little bit of like leaky gut type SIBO.
Yep.
So he wanted you to eliminate those foods that are inflammatory to you, that you're reacting to, for 60 days, plus on top of the digestive aid, as well as a couple other things, to help repair your stomach.
Right. So some of the issues that from the test results and what was coming forth was that it seemed highly likely that I was not absorbing the nutrients from the food that I was eating because my stomach acid was too low. I potentially had small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is called SIBO, which is like an overgrowth of bacteria in your gut, and not the good kind.
Which is very common, by the way.
Which is common. And also potentially leaky gut, which means that I was, again, not absorbing the nutrients appropriately from my food, not digesting my food appropriately, which would mean that a lot of that was leaking into my body and causing me inflammation. So that's why I wasn't able to lose weight. That's why I was feeling lethargic. There was a variety of other things. So first and foremost, that's what we started to tackle first, is we dove in on that and rectified those, attempted to rectify those issues with my gut. So started the 60-day experiment. So that's that. Do you want me to talk about the results after the 60 days, or did you have another question first?
No, I just want to point out a couple things. What I found really interesting is that we thought we were eating healthy. And we were eating healthy. But I think what I want to have as this like Facebook take home is that there are main foods that can be inflammatory to you. Mm-hmm. There are common foods that can be inflammatory to like the general population.
Correct.
And we weren't consuming some of those, but I think
dairy.
Yes, gluten and dairy is up there. Corn is up there. Soy and eggs is actually on there. But you didn't think you were reacting to those things because you felt fine when you ate them, like stomach wise. But you were reacting to them, and so I think that's where something like this is really beneficial to people, because they believe, and it's so frustrating because they believe they're eating so healthy and they don't want to. They're like, I can't eliminate anything else because they really are doing the best for them. But when you find out exactly what your triggers are, hence eggs, hence soy, which was like completely eliminated his option of being vegan. Which you'd have been tempting on and off for a couple years. Like, you know, you kind of go in and out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I would watch a documentary and I would feel sick to my stomach. And even now, I still can't eat hamburgers, really. I have a really hard time eating hamburgers. I don't know what it is. I can eat chicken, I can eat fish, I can eat a steak, I can eat bacon. But I just have a weird thing with eating hamburgers. I don't know what it is. But anyways, you're right, absolutely. You can eat extremely healthy and feel like you're eating healthy, but not realize that some of the things you're eating are making you, you know, reactive or giving you inflammation or causing you issues. And I think that's the important thing to know about seeing a functional medicine doctor, is that you're going to get to the bottom of that. And I can tell you that I highly recommend getting a food reactivity test, or it's called an IgG test. The pinprick on the arm is called an IgE, which is the environmental one. The IgG is the gastrointestinal one, which talks about your digestion.
I didn't know that. You just taught me something. Test.
So I did that, and I highly recommend that everybody do that, because it is typically covered under most people's naturopathic coverage on their insurance. Failing that, it's not too expensive. It's around $300 or so, maybe $400 at the top end, which is a lot of money, but highly worth it when you're talking about understanding your health at a level that no doctor is ever going to really give you. So you need to understand that. And so the information that comes back is just like so enlightening. And it completely changed the way I thought about everything. I mean, that's when things really started to click, was when I found out that information. And I felt so empowered. A huge weight came off my shoulders, because now I finally understood what it was that was causing me issues.
Yeah. And I
only got better from there.
Yeah, and what I liked about Dr. Arsenault's approach is that his approach was that, like, you don't have to eliminate these foods forever. So sometimes you will get these reactivity tests back, and whatever's in the red, whatever's in the yellow, it's like basically eliminate. And then you felt empowered, but a lot of people feel overwhelmed.
True.
And they're like, I can't do this. This is impossible. I don't know what I'm going to eat, what my family's going to eat, and they get really overwhelmed. Where Dr. Arsenault is like, focus on the red, focus specifically on the top things in the red.
Sure.
And do your best to eliminate those for 60 days. You will notice a difference. And you stayed as committed to that as you could.
I mean, you're going to go to a restaurant, and there's going to be a sauce on your pasta, or a sauce on your plate, or your chicken that somehow has eggs in it. And you're not even going to know, right? And you're not going to sit there at the restaurant and ask them to read through all the ingredients of what's in something. I mean, there's the big ones that you want to try to avoid. If you're allergic to mushrooms on this list, then you don't get a plate that has mushrooms with it, obviously. But if it's like a small ingredient that's in something, I mean, hey, I had some potatoes while we were in the 60 days. It happened, right? Like, I had a few French fries. It's going to happen. But if you strive towards eliminating it as best as possible, trying to focus on the items in the red, and my list was about 35 things in the red, which he said was abnormal, but obviously it's indicative of an issue. But you focus on those top ones and try to do your absolute best, and I guarantee you'll see results.
And I think what's interesting too is, like, with the eggs and then the wheat, is that, like, we didn't eat them. I don't really eat wheat, but, like, you didn't have a lot of beer.
No.
So what I want to also point out, and I'm sorry I keep on interrupting you, is that, because I know people are going to be interested to know this, is that Matt doesn't drink a lot of beer, and I think what's fascinating is that all he did was eliminate that, and now he drinks gluten-free beer with me. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Love my Glutenberg. That Glutenberg beer is fantastic.
It's really good, and we've been trying to have wine and stuff like that, but. So he didn't drink beer that often, but eliminating that and eggs, it's not like you had eggs every day.
Nope.
So some people think that, like, I don't have that much of it.
Yeah.
Like, you had it a couple times a week.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like you ate it every day.
No.
Where, like, they're like, it's not that much, it won't matter. Well, those things ended up mattering a lot. Like, the biggest change, I would say, in your diet specifically ended up coming from the soy products, from trying to be vegan.
Yes.
Coming from the eggs.
Excuse me.
And then the white potatoes. We did have white potatoes quite a bit.
Yes,
and then like, a beer on the weekend or something.
Yeah, but not much.
No, but it's not like you had a beer every night. Like, it was really like a weekend occasion type thing. But those were, like, the big changes that made such a massive change. And within those 60 days, you had some fries or, like, I think you may have had a beer with my dad or something.
Yeah, and I would say the first few weeks were a bit frustrating, because, someone would say, your dad, we go over to your dad's and your dad'd be like, I made such and such and such. And I'd be like, oh, I can't eat that. I can't eat that. And I can have some of that, but I can't eat that. And so there will be a few weeks of that where you're like, ugh, frustrated that you can't have a certain thing, but that passes very quickly. And I can tell you now, I mean, I don't even skip a beat. Like,
well, and that you just communicated to my dad, because we go over and eat with my dad a lot. So like, you just communicated, and now my dad gets excited. He's like, I made my chicken soup without potatoes, and I put white rice in it or brown rice in it for Matt. And like, so you just have to communicate with people that you eat with frequently. Yeah. Like what's going on. Yeah. And that does make it easier.
Yeah. So yeah.
So that was the big change.
Yes.
So we've talked about like the food allergy test, how that's so individual. And yes. I also asked Nicole yesterday when I saw her, I'm like, do you mind if I talk quickly about you in our Facebook Live tomorrow? Because Kaylee and I haven't done this test, and I know a lot of people have asked us, and I feel like I've identified mine. I actually had Dr. Arsenault identify mine years and years ago just by doing food journaling. Which I actually didn't do a blood test at that time because I didn't want to pay for it. Mm-hmm. But Nicole did do the test, and her results came back. She actually had eggs on that as well, and mm-hmm. like a lot of nuts and legumes that mm-hmm. she was consuming mm-hmm. were really high on her list. And she also had a massive decrease in her bloating, mm-hmm. and her skin was breaking out, and her hormones. So this isn't like an exclusive like coincidence thing going on with Matt. Like, this is something that has, like, Nicole got like the same test, like the most expensive test that you could get with every single basically food. Like, they'll even ask if you're allergic to elk. Like,
there's 250 different antigens on the test. I think they had one that was 200. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
They had one that was like, I think it was like a 200 or a 125 or 175, I think, and then they had one that was like a 250. And I had a choice between, one that was $75 more than the other one. And I just said, you know what? Screw it. I want to know as much information as possible. So yeah, it tests whether you're allergic to like, ginkgo root and elk meat and, horse milk, like which you're never going to eat, potentially.
Yeah.
Unless there's big horse milk fans out there. I don't know. But anyway,
You laugh at that, but people should be laughing about drinking another animal's milk in general.
Yeah,
anyway,
but at any rate, I wanted to know everything. As you know me very well. I'm very much the person who wants to know a lot of information before I make any decisions, which is sometimes the frustration of many people. But at any rate, that's what we did. So yes, did the test. But it's, like you said, like Nicole found out some fascinating things about her test results.
Like cola. Not that she drinks a lot of Coca-Cola, but like cola nut came back. Yeah. Like just like random things that you don't think of. That like mushrooms or like pea. Like
orange. Orange was on my red list.
Yeah, and we like to have oranges and grapefruit and stuff like that. So like there was some things that were important. And like I know Nicole was having hard-boiled eggs like every day. So like that was a major trigger for her, even though she thought she felt okay. So this is actually there are like the common allergic inflammatory foods, but there's going to be other random ones that are very individual to you. Yep. Before we move on to my next question, I see Joy has a question. It's how many foods were on the red list for you?
There were approximately 30. Yeah. Between 30 and 35, which he said was somewhat abnormal, like more than what the average person has.
Yeah, and so that's why I think he said to focus on the things like they're in red, but then they also have a number beside them. So like he said, basically focus on the things that are at like the highest end.
The highest end, yes. Highest. Focus on what's in the red, and then those that are in the highest, order of reactivity, and try to eliminate as many of them as you can. But your priority is on like at least the top 10.
Yeah. So you corrected that, and then you also started your digestive enzymes.
Correct.
So that was the first protocol. Was basically he was trying to heal Matt's gut.
The gut.
Because once if you have a leaky gut, your body's going to be full of inflammation, and that's why what you eat is so important. No matter what people are like calories in versus calories out, and I hear it all the time. And no, it's not always that, because you could eat sometimes I didn't think Matt was eating enough.
Correct.
And but if your body is in an inflamed state, you are going to be retaining water and fat cells as a protective way for your body surviving. So because my nutrient was essentially nutrient malabsorption. Yes.
Because whatever I was eating, I wasn't absorbing properly that exacerbated the issue even further.
Yeah, and then that's why you were tired and everything. So then, okay, so we've kind of covered like that part. Now let's go to the next part. Like you ended up doing more tests with him, and then finding out more stuff that was really that also helped to kind of pull everything in together.
Correct. So then we moved down to the next things on my list, which were my my general energy levels, my motivation, and my anxiety and stress. Those were things that we'd now started to focus in on. So we did a variety of different tests as well, like blood tests and urine tests and things like that. So they tested for a whole bunch of different things, and we can talk about, if people want to know about what the tests I did, we can talk about that separately. But I did these tests while I was doing this 60-day, diet change or health lifestyle change. And then I went back in for my next session with Dr. Arsenault, where we talked about, the results. And so when I sat down with him, the first thing he said to me, and I was already starting to feel pretty good at this point. Like I wasn't having any heartburn, which was remarkable. I know you said I was no longer snoring
barely
really
snored.
Anymore.
It was almost immediate.
I was starting to feel a lot better, and like I was actually starting to notice that my waist was getting smaller and my pants were starting to fit better, and just generally starting to feel better. And so the first thing he said when I sat down with him is he said, "How do you feel?" And I was like, "Well, I feel pretty good." And he goes, "But no, but really, how do you feel?" And I said, "Well, I feel okay. I mean, there's all little things that I can look at." And he's like, "Well, let's just look at this." And he pulled out the test results, and he's like, "Your vitamin D is like so far below what it needs to be. Like you are literally vitamin D deficient, which is very low. Like the average person is at like a, I guess it was between like an 85 and a 90 or an 85 and 100, and I was at 40. Like my vitamin D levels were so low that they were a real problem. So the first thing was that. So he said, we need to get you on prescription strength vitamin D. He's like, do you take vitamin D? And I'm like, no, I think I take like sometimes I'll take a multi or whatever. And I'm like, I could go to the convenience store, not the convenience store. I could go to the pharmacy and grab some over-the-counter vitamin D. And he said, no. You need like 20,000 IUs of vitamin D, throughout the course of a week. And so that's prescription strength. You can't just go to the pharmacy and get that. You have to literally get a prescription for it. So I started taking those 3 times a week. And then the next thing down on the list, he said, your cortisol levels are extremely, extremely low, and which is odd, because quite often people talk about their cortisol levels being very high because they're stressed out and they have anxiety, and they're constantly in a state of that kind of state. And so I guess what had happened is I had been like that for so long, obviously not showing it on the outside so much, but occasionally just losing it, and like being like, and then feeling like, wow, I really reacted to that, and feeling kind of strange that I reacted so quickly to something. And he said essentially what had happened is my cortisol levels had been so elevated for so long that they just dropped off a cliff, and now they were so low, and that's called adrenal fatigue. And so I had reached that point of adrenal fatigue where my cortisol levels had gone off the edge of a cliff, and then from that point on, anytime something gave me anxiety or that sort of spike in adrenaline type response, I couldn't control it because my cortisol levels were so low and could not rectify the situation. So I would find myself feeling just like anxious all the time about certain things. So
which I never have noticed, you
never have noticed, but
I like when he started telling me all this, I was like
work related,
what?
Like just things about work or that feeling in your stomach, like things like that where
and both of our parents were sick.
Both of our parents were sick,
yeah.
All of those things were happening, buying a house, all these things, these life stresses, changing jobs, all that shit. So at any rate, we talked about that. So my cortisol levels are extremely low. So then he recommended that I start getting an adrenal booster, which is an injection that you take 3 times over the course of, I think it was 6 weeks roughly. And I would just go into the office for that. It would be a quick injection, and then I would go home. And that's an adrenal booster to help with my cortisol levels, to return them to normal. And then I would take a supplement every morning, which is essentially licorice root and a few other things that's meant to help maintain a healthy cortisol level, adrenal level in your body. And so that was that. And then I was just suggested that I take the vitamin D, the adrenal boosters, as well as potassium and vitamin C. So I would take vitamin C during the day, and also the potassium supplements as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was very eye-opening for me, certainly, not realizing that I was in such a poor state in terms of my vitamin intake and my levels. So
because you weren't fully absorbing the nutrients you were eating.
It was. I mean, I'll be honest. I was kind of upset because I didn't think that it was that dire. But clear. And then when you go on the internet and you read about what happens if you live a prolonged lifestyle with those levels in your body, all the things that can happen to you. I'm like, okay, I don't want that. So I need to get on this right away. So that's when that phase started of taking proper nutrients, and so I'm taking care of the diet and my gut, restoring the health of my gut. Now I'm working on the vitamins and nutrients to restore my adrenal levels and my vitamin levels in my body to maintain good energy levels and vitality. And then that was another 30 days or so, 60 days. And then I started seeing just unbelievable results. I like the weight just started just flying off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was another one of my questions is what other results do you feel like you've been seeing? I mean, you've kind of already touched on some of them, but like I know the weight was a bonus. Do you feel more calm? Do you feel more energized? Do you feel a difference in your body, your mental clarity? Like what other, besides weight loss, like what other things did you maybe not even realize you were struggling with that you've noticed an improvement in?
Well, I don't even remember the last time I had heartburn at all, ever. I would burp a lot after eating, and the only time I ever burp is if I'm drinking pop, and that's only a natural response to drinking pop. Or beer. I would fart a lot, like a lot, all day long. I would fart.
I don't know how he went into work.
Sorry for people that I work with. But I would fart all day long. Like it was ridiculous. Like, and I would be right after eating, I would be farting. And at night I would be farting, or it
would wake me up.
It would wake you up. This is awful. But anyway, it's the truth. And I know that there's guys watching this that are in the same situation, or women who are watching this whose husbands or boyfriends are doing these
girls too. Like I used to, like totally. Before I corrected my diet, I used to fart all the time. Like it was disgusting.
So those were things that I honestly can't even really recall the last time I like the burping and the farting has like dramatically gone down. Like if I fart, it's like a rarity, and then we laugh about it. But like it was borderline like ridiculous. Before.
You were farting so much.
Yeah,
I didn't even know you were going to talk about this.
It was unattractive.
He was not even no, but like you were just farting so much it wasn't even funny anymore. Like
no, it was just kind of like it was like
people,
breathing.
Yeah,
it was awful.
Like when people fart, it's funny and like you laugh. Like I still giggle when I fart, and like I'm proud of it. But like you were just farting so much. I'm like, it's not funny every time. Like and you sometimes would laugh, and I'm like, it was embarrassing. You just farted 5 seconds ago.
It was embarrassing. Anyway, I cannot believe how much that's gone down. The bloating, like my stomach has become very flat. My energy levels are very good. I feel really great about that. I have good sleeps. My anxiety is very much minimized. I find that I'm very calm now about certain things. I don't get that upset. I certainly don't yell very much at all when I'm in the car. I've noticed that even myself.
Oh yeah?
I don't get upset at other drivers really anymore.
That's the one time Matt and I would be like this is when we're driving.
It's unbelievable. A lot of this stuff has helped me a lot. I feel really good. Yeah. I feel excellent. And then the weight loss, of course. I mean, it's dramatic. Like I put on these shorts today, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, I have to buy all new shorts. Like I'm literally pulling the waistband out, and they look like really baggy and like bad. So I need to get new pants. So it's been incredible. It's been incredible.
Yeah. So it's crazy how much you know, there are the general foods that I know Royally Fit recommends that you get rid of as a general rule, not like 100% of the time, but like 90% of the time, because they're the common inflammatory foods. But I think why I wanted to share Matt's story was because he was already doing that as a general rule.
Right.
And besides, like, you know, a beer on the weekend or something, like in the eggs, like you were basically dairy and gluten-free for the most part.
Yeah, I was eating relatively healthy.
But then like just finding out and like going to see a naturopathic doctor or a functional medicine and like finding out how like you are such an individual and how you really need to get an individualized plan and like learn. And that doesn't mean that Matt can't have those foods forever. Like that's not his plan for life. Like Dr. Arsenault was like, we repair your gut. Yeah. Like you can have those foods again. We just need to repair it. We need to get you healthy and thriving. And so, yeah, I think it's incredible how like those little things that you might not even notice that are upsetting your stomach or causing indigestion or anything like that, they can be fostering your weight gain, and they can be, what are you laughing at?
If you're farting a lot, something's the matter.
I know, my dad thinks it's so, I'm like, Dad,
There's
like,
something
I
wrong.
wish my dad would go, because my dad farts all the time too, and he thinks it's hilarious every time. And I'm like, Dad, like, he's like, it's so natural. Like, it's like, this is like a good, it means I'm working, it means the system's working. And I'm like, well, yeah, but no, like, if you're farting and burping all the time, like, your body's also telling you something.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's true.
yeah. So, anyways, and that used to be me. Like, I used to be, like, embarrassed.
Yeah.
Although I would laugh with, like, how much I farted. And, like, like, it was ridiculous.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm blown away.
Great job, buddy. Thanks, Heather.
Yeah.
So
any other questions?
well, you kind of answered a lot of them while we were talking. Like, so, you know, what was the protocol? What was your biggest change, which we kind of went over.
Yeah.
And then besides weight, what were your other improvements?
Yeah.
And then my last question for you is, what's your next plan of attack? Kind of like, where do you go from here?
Right. So I did further tests. So I've since done more tests, and I go in on, I think, June the 1st. June the 1st for my next meeting. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how I'm feeling, of course, and my progress to date. But we're also going to look more at the test results to see what's changed and, you know, what further I can do to, you know, further improve my health. Yep. And talk about next steps. So from my perspective, my plan is to continue to eat the way that I've been eating. And I really don't have any intention of changing the way that I eat, other than occasionally indulging in some of the things that I miss, like pizza, like legit pizza, like New York style pizza. Or maybe like an ice cream. I don't know, like a peanut butter parfait per se.
Ooh.
You know, like those things I will never not enjoy having, but I just,
of course,
I needed to restore where I was at, you know, so that I could eat them properly.
Yeah. So I think I think at that point you have to, like, I think it's healthy to remind people that, like, some people, they're like, I don't want to do that test because I don't want to know. I won't feel like I can eat anything. Just don't forget that it's not permanent, right? Like, it's not like you can't eat these things forever. Like, it's not anaphylactic. It's just that your body's having a response to it. So if this is something you're fearful of doing because you don't want to learn, like, ignorance is not bliss when it comes to your health. Okay, so I think it's really good to learn these things, and then you work on, like Matt has, eliminating them for 60 days. You restore your gut. Yeah. Some of the things you're going to be able to have again, some of them you can't. Some of them maybe you just don't have that often, like your New York pizza and all that kind of stuff. So it was just, it's like a temporary plan to restore your body.
I'm willing to put my reputation on the line, not that I have, like, you know, some sort of, you know, industry-wide reputation, but I'm willing to put my reputation on the line that if someone on here does this test to understand their underlying reactive foods that bother them and cause inflammation in their body, and they do this elimination for 60 days, that they will see results.
Yeah.
I can guarantee it, because
100%.
It's
It.
science. It's you know, it's like it's like Ryan said. Liz's husband Ryan said, you can't argue with science, right? You can't beat science. Like,
no,
it's fact. So
It's your blood test, so
it's a blood test. So at any rate, yeah, I intend to continue to eat this way. I hope to continue to also take the vitamins and continue to lose weight. And then I also need to incorporate workout. I've been extremely lackadaisical over the years with my working out, and I need to get better at that. So that's, for me, that's my next big step.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. So this is a good question.
Yeah. So thanks for sharing your story, Matt. Super interesting. Are you comfortable sharing the approximate cost for the assessment, tests, supplements, etc. with your functional medicine doctor? I'm just curious, so not a problem if not, and sorry if you covered this.
No problem.
I missed the first 15 to 20.
No problem.
Not a problem, Jillian.
No problem. So a lot of this stuff is, some of it's covered by OHIP, and some of it's covered by your insurance. And so Dr. Arsenault himself is classified as a naturopathic doctor, so it would go underneath naturopath in your insurance. I think our allowance is, I mean, it's not huge, but it covered most of the first test. The test that I took was about $400. It was the most expensive of the IgG tests, which is the gastrointestinal food reactivity test. It tests 250 some odd antigens, and so it was the most comprehensive and therefore the most expensive.
And how much was covered of that? Like 80%?
80%. Well, 80%. And so a lot of people, like if there's teachers on here, I know teachers have some really great.
I think it's like 90%
benefits. Yeah. Police officers, things like that, really great benefits. So it depends on your company and what offers, but generally speaking, that's what that costs. Now, some of the blood tests that I do are covered by OHIP. So the ones that are covered by OHIP, you don't have to pay for at the naturopath. You pay for all the tests up front at Dr. Arsenault's office, and then you go to the Dynacare or wherever to do the tests. But some of them are covered by OHIP. Of the ones that are not covered by OHIP, I again submitted those to the insurance company, and they covered some of those up to 80% as well. So $400 roughly for the food test. I think there's a less expensive one that's about $300, and you could probably shop that around at different naturopaths if you want. But just beware that not all naturopathic doctors are functional medicine practitioners. So you might go to a naturopath and get like the whole, they want to feel your chi and all that crap.
Not always, but we had a friend that had that.
Some of them you will. Yeah. We have a friend that had that issue. So you just have to be careful where you go. Because you could ask your GP to send you for a food reactivity test, just so you're aware of that. You don't have to go to a naturopath for that. But
I did that, and they sent me for a pin one, and it came back that I was reactive.
You have to be specific. Yeah. You have to be specific to ask for the IgG. So each visit to the doctor, I mean, I'm pretty sure, I don't know Dr. Arsenault's rates 100% for sure, but I think initial visit is...
I think it's 150.
About 150 for the initial visit. Subsequent follow-ups are the first one is like free, the consultation.
Then it's 150, and that's about 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, 45 to an hour, and you never feel rushed there. I mean, he'll talk to you for a long time, and then subsequent visits are like $60. The injections that I go in for were $20 each time for the injection. The supplements, you can buy supplements through them, but many of the supplements that I'm taking are like vitamin D, vitamin C, potassium, multivitamin. You can buy those off Amazon, or you can buy them from a health food store. So those are, you can shop around for prices on those. And so that pretty much covers it in terms of the costs. But if that person that asked you wants to privately message you or whatever, I can give them more information.
Yeah, like I think Jillian, it really differs depending on your benefits. Yeah. Like it's hard for Matt and I, like if you don't have benefits, it's hard for Matt and I to give you an exact number because a lot of ours has been covered.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say if you hadn't had any of that coverage up to date, you probably would have spent close to $1,000.
I'd say
if you had no coverage.
Yeah, and maybe
like $600 to $1,000.
Yeah, between $600 and $1,000, and so that I mean, for some people that is to me that's a lot of money. But the thing is that here's how I look at it. I'm 37 years old and I need to get my health in check, and I need to be really smart about it. So I'm investing $1,000 that's going to carry me well into the rest of my life. It's setting me up. So I see it as an investment in my health. Second of all, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a GP and walked out of there with a prescription for something that I don't need. So I've wasted a lot of money. And I'm essentially spending a lot of money on vitamins. I'm literally taking vitamins and losing weight and feeling better.
Yeah.
I can't believe it, but I am. So I'm not taking drugs. I'm not taking, you know what I mean? I'm literally taking vitamins and feeling better.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Well worth the spend.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it is incredible. And just so you know, like I went and saw Dr. Arsenault when I actually didn't have benefits many, many, many years ago. I'm going to see him again right now because of my breast implants. But many, many years ago, I went and saw him for, like, without being covered. It was worth every single penny. So for those of you that don't have coverage, maybe it's something that you can save up for. Like it was, and I put a lot of it on my credit card back then. Like it was worth the investment for me because that has he changed my whole perspective on health. He changed, like, I can't say enough good things about him, and he has no idea we're doing this Facebook Live. Like, he's probably going to be annoyed because now he's going to have, like, 50 people calling him to book an appointment. But, like, it's, like, it was worth the investment is my point. And because I wasn't, I didn't have benefits at that time, he did his best to give me tests that weren't going to be as expensive. So, as an example, at that time, he was the one that discovered I had low thyroid. And nobody else did.
Sorry.
Bless you.
Sorry.
And at that time, he was like, he's like, you don't have coverage. He's like, why don't you go to the doctor, tell them to do this test, this test, this test. OHIP will cover it. Then they'll give you a prescription from there. He's like, that would be cheaper for you than coming through me. So like, he was that awesome that he was like, I just want you to feel better.
Sure.
So he was like, hey, if you don't have coverage, this is what you're going to go do with your doctor because OHIP will cover this. They'll be able to give you more of a generic type, cheaper medication. And he's like, and then this is what you'll have to see me for. So for those of you that don't have that kind of money to spend, he will do his best. And he's like, hey, like, if this is your budget, this is what we will work with, and I will try to give you the best results possible within that budget. Right. So there are two different experiences. I can't remember how much I spent at this time. It was probably a decade ago. I can't remember how much I spent, but I remember feeling overwhelmed with how much it was. But it was worth every single penny because he helped me, and he also worked within my budget as much as he could. And if I didn't want to do it, I didn't want to do it. There's a couple other questions here. Let me go back up.
Yeah, let's go see. I think you gotta keep going. No?
No, I don't believe so.
Oh.
Hi, Ashley and Matt. Thank you so much for sharing. I think this could have a huge impact for me. I'm really interested. Thank you. You're most welcome.
Definitely explore it. I guarantee you're going to get a lot of information that will help you, give you the information. Like knowledge really is power. That's a cliche term, but it really is. Even
for people that don't think they have anything wrong, if you go and get a test done, like whether it's the food allergy test or your blood test for your cortisol levels, like all of, it might just be your new norm to feel tired. It might just be your new norm to be bloated. It might be your new norm to not gain weight because I'm aging or whatever, where like you could go and get this test done and be like, holy shit, I didn't know this is how good I could feel.
We had a friend, we were away at their cottage a couple of years ago, and we started talking about some of these things, and he drinks a lot of beer, and he talked about how he would feel, and he was generally a very healthy guy, but he just didn't feel 100%, and his wife said similar things. He would snore and stuff like that, and so he went in for this test. Ashley was the one who said it. She's like, I wonder if you might be gluten intolerant or potentially celiac. And
he had like all the symptoms.
He had all the symptoms of it, and he went in for the food test, and sure enough, he was celiac. And he was a heavy, he loved his beer, loved his, his food. He lived a vibrant life, and he was literally killing himself, and didn't even realize it. And so he had to radically change his diet. And thank God that he found out this information.
And he worked out every day.
He worked out all the time, but he just didn't see the results.
And he felt strong, but he wouldn't see the results. So it's like, it's just beneficial to do. He was
know this information.
Yeah, he was very resistant, and I think it's just a good example of that. Like you think you feel good, but something was just a little bit off. But and so he found out some pretty powerful information, because if you have celiac and you continue to eat gluten, it's very different than a gluten sensitivity. Like if you have celiac disease and you eat gluten, and that happens to be something that you don't even realize you're identifying as a reaction to, it will make you sick in the future. It tears you down. Yeah, it'll make it literally create illness as you age. Amanda said, "I can't wait to see the beginning." That's awesome. Thanks for watching, Amanda. I'm so happy you popped on.
I probably shouldn't do this because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's okay. Deborah, that's Terry's mom.
Yep.
She asked where Dr. Arsenault is located, and he's at Dixon and Taunton.
Dixon and Taunton and Whitby.
Yeah.
He works at 2 different clinics, but if you go for, I think it's called advancedmedicine.ca, or you Google Center for Advanced Medicine, you'll go to his website and you can see where his locations are.
Yeah.
Does he have any colleagues in Newmarket? That's a good question. I bet you if you reached out to the office and asked, they may know someone in their network that they could refer for you, Amanda.
Yeah, and if they don't, I'm actually seeing him tomorrow. I could ask for you, Amanda.
That's good, yeah.
And then if he doesn't, you could even just Google functional medicine doctor in your area, and there will be some, I'm sure, that come up. So it's actually a really... he's like a Dr. Oz. Like, you know how Dr. Oz is like an MD? That's how I always explain functional medicine, because I understand, but I don't fully understand. But basically, it's like an MD meets an ND, and that's kind of like Dr. Oz. Well, like, he's like a Dr. Oz. Like, he still will advise you if you need to go and get medicinal therapy type thing, right? Where like a naturopath is very like holistic and traditional in their approach, which is great. And I love naturopathic doctors, but he just has a little bit of a different approach. And so if you just look up functional medicine, I'm sure you can find somebody in your area.
Some people call it integrative medicine as well, potentially, but it's generally the same thing.
Because you're integrating 2 different things. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate you both being so open. You answered my questions perfectly. I totally agree that it's worth the money to invest in your health and lifestyle. Absolutely.
Agreed.
Oh, yes, please. Oh my God, that's a great explanation. Oh, good. I'm glad. And let us know if you guys have any more questions. And as always, I will do my best to pop on here for, the next day to see if anybody else has questions. I'm happy to add Dr. Arsenault's thing on here. I will be definitely letting him know tomorrow that he might be getting a lot of phone calls, but yeah, we
didn't get to show them, but if people are interested in knowing exactly what types of vitamins that I take, where I get them, because I shop around. I'm an avid shopper arounder. I get that from my mom, and I can also talk about the tests specifically that I did as well. So if anybody is interested in that, if they want to reach out to you, and then I can somehow contact them and let them know.
Exactly. Like, even if it's something you're not comfortable asking on here, just let us know. And if you're a really farty person, you don't want to admit it publicly, just let us know, and then like DM me, and then we'll be in touch with you. We just want you guys to feel good. And my purpose of doing this Facebook Live, I asked Matt, and I was so pleased that you were going to. So thank you. Is that I just wanted to show people that how profound the food you eat has an effect on your health, and how individual that can be for each person.
Yeah, so, I can't. Like I said, I'm in disbelief. I'm in disbelief at how incredible this has been.
Yeah, and he's been such a supporter of me with my breast implant illness stuff as well. And like I don't know, I can't say enough about him and how profound he has been in my whole health journey from early 20s to now. I didn't even see him for a long time, and it was so nice to like reconnect with him. And he's like, "What are you here for now?" And I'm like, "Not the same stuff, but something new." What did Amanda say? What did you ask your extended benefits if they cover, seeing as it's not a naturopathic? Oh, it would be underneath naturopathic.
He's classified as a naturopathic doctor, so it would be in your extended benefits, probably, Amanda. Mm-hmm. So it would go under that more than likely. And like I said,
and
you might have missed it.
Teachers have really good ones.
The teachers do have good coverage for that, and I think some of the teachers' plans you can like steal from Corey's or whatever. You can take some of his if you want to cover some of your stuff, but. Anyway, some of the tests as well are covered by OHIP, and they'll tell you which ones are in terms of the blood tests. Mm-hmm. And then some of the other tests as well are covered by the insurance company. And usually with the tests for the blood tests is you send them a copy of the requisition form that highlights what tests you're getting, and that's pretty much it. And they'll take a look at the tests and the receipt that you paid for those tests at the naturopath, and then they'll reimburse you, whatever amount for those tests.
Like there's some tests that weren't, like I just went through a bunch of testing myself because of what's going on with my boobs, and a lot of the tests were a little bit more unusual, so I did have to pay out of pocket, like
But they covered a fair amount.
They covered a fair amount, but there are sometimes there are tests that they don't cover, and that's up to you if you want to do them or not. Like Dr. Arsenault even said, he's like, I think I know what's going on. You can do this test to just like basically get some validation that it's, you know, confirmation, let's say. But yeah, it's they'll still be able to help you even if you can't pay for absolutely everything. And Amanda, I see your comment. I'm excited for you because I know how frustrated you've been, and you've been trying so hard and making so many changes, and you deserve to feel good. Like you've been working really hard, and you're a hard-working mom of 2 busy boys. So I hope that they can help you feel good and see a change in your body and just like your energy. So yeah, but thank you for joining us, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, and let us know if you guys have any more questions. And hey, Jen, I just saw you pop on, but we're leaving now. Bye. But yeah, we'll talk to you guys later. Oh wait. Before I go, I have to mention, I'll also be letting you guys know on social media, that we are not doing Facebook Lives next week. Kelly is just leaving today to go to, she's actually on the plane as of now. She's going to London and Prague, and then I'm getting my breast explant surgery on Monday. So no Facebook Lives next week. We're off. And so we'll see you guys again in a couple weeks. All right? And you're welcome, Amanda. Bye.